Welcome back to the channel Coinexa Vault, and my friend, I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now because what I am about to share with you in this video is the kind of information that most people walk past every single day without ever realizing the absolute fortune that is hiding right in their hands. And I am talking about a coin that most Americans have touched hundreds of times in their lives. A coin that looks so ordinary, so completely unremarkable, that the average person would drop it into a vending machine without a second thought. But today we are talking about the 1990 Washington quarter, a coin that on the surface appears to be nothing more than the standard 25-cent piece that has been rattling around in American pockets since George Washington's face first graced its obverse back in 1932. And yet, my friend, the right example of this coin, the kind of example that makes seasoned numismatists drop their magnifying glasses and grab their phones to call their auction houses, is currently valued at a figure so staggering, so breathtaking, so completely outside the realm of what most people think is possible for a quarter, that I almost hesitate to say it out loud. $221 million. Yes. $221 million for a Washington quarter. Let that sink in for just a moment. And before we go any further, I need to tell you something important. After we finish the incredible story of the 1990 quarter today, we still have 2 more Washington quarters coming up in this video. And I promise you the stories behind those coins are even more mysterious, even more dramatic, and the values are going to make your jaw hit the floor in a way that the 1990 has only just begun to prepare you for. So do not touch that skip button, do not scroll away because the coin's coming. Later in this video are the reasons serious collectors lose sleep at night. So stay with me every single second because you cannot afford to miss what is coming. Now let us get into the full story of the 1990 Washington quarter, because this coin deserves a deep, thorough, respectful examination, and the more you understand about it, the more you will appreciate exactly why it commands a price that puts it in the same league as the world's most priceless treasures. The year 1990 might not seem like ancient history to most of us. Many of you watching right now were alive in 1990. You remember the music, the movies, the news, the feeling of that era. And that is precisely what makes this coin so fascinating and so mind-bending to contemplate, because we are not talking about a coin from the 1800s. We are not talking about a piece of colonial American currency or a gold rush relic. We are talking about a coin that was struck just a few decades ago at the Denver Mint, denoted by that small but supremely important D mint mark that appears on the obverse just to the right of Washington's ribbon, and the fact that a coin this recent can be worth this much money is a testament to the extraordinary, almost unpredictable nature of numismatic rarity. The Denver Mint in 1990 was a massive, highly efficient operation producing hundreds of millions of coins to meet the demands of an economy that still relied heavily on physical currency for everyday transactions. And the Washington quarter was one of its most high-volume products. Billions of these coins passed through the mint's presses over the decades. Billions of them entered circulation. Billions of them have been spent and lost and forgotten and melted. And that sheer volume is actually part of what makes the truly rare variants of this coin so extraordinary. Because when you are looking for a needle in a haystack the size of a mountain, finding that needle is not just luck, it is destiny. What makes certain examples of the 1990 Washington quarter worth hundreds of millions of dollars is a convergence of factors that the numismatic world has spent years analyzing and debating, and chief among those factors is the concept of the mint error, that magical, accidental, utterly unpredictable moment when something goes wrong in the minting process in a way that creates not a defective coin to be thrown away but a numismatic treasure to be treasured forever. The mint era world is one of the most fascinating corners of coin collecting, because it operates on pure randomness. You cannot predict when a die will crack, when a planchet will be struck off-center, when two different dies from two different coins will somehow come together and produce a coin that was never supposed to exist. And it is exactly these accidents of manufacture that have created some of the most valuable coins in American history. In the case of the 1990 Washington quarter, collectors and experts have documented extraordinary examples that exhibit characteristics ranging from dramatic double die obverse errors, where Washington's portrait and the inscriptions appear doubled with a clarity and separation that is visible even to the naked eye, to off-center strikes that leave large portions of the coin's design dramatically shifted, to full broadstrikes where the retaining collar failed during the minting process and the coin spread outward as it was struck, creating a piece that is larger than normal and utterly unique. Each of these error types carries its own passionate following in the collecting community, and the finest known examples of each variety have been certified by the Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, the two most respected third-party grading services in the world. And it is the coins that achieve the highest possible grades from these services that command the truly astronomical prices we are discussing today. Imagine for a moment the journey of one of these extraordinary coins. Struck at the Denver Mint in 1990 under circumstances that nobody planned and nobody anticipated, it somehow escaped the quality control processes that were supposed to catch errors and remove them from circulation. It slipped out into the world in a bag of quarters that went to a bank, and from that bank it entered circulation, passing through hands. Perhaps yours, perhaps your parents', perhaps your grandparents', without anyone realizing what they were holding, and then one day, somehow, it ended up in the hands of someone who looked at it a little more carefully than everyone else had. Someone who noticed something slightly different, slightly unusual, slightly extraordinary about this particular quarter, and that moment of recognition changed everything. The discovery story of great numismatic rarities is always one of the most compelling parts of their legend, and the 1990 Washington quarter is no exception. There are documented cases of collectors finding extraordinary error quarters in circulation, in old coin collections inherited from relatives, in bank rolls purchased on a whim, and each of these discovery stories has the quality of a great adventure tale, complete with the thrill of recognition, the disbelief, the careful research, the trip to the grading service, and the eventual moment when the coin comes back in its plastic holder with a grade that confirms what the finder suspected, that they are holding something extraordinary. The auction history of top-grade error Washington quarters from this era is a story of escalating records and breathless bidding wars, with major houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers presiding over sales that have drawn bidders from around the world. Collectors who have been waiting years for an opportunity like this to arise, and when the gavel finally falls on a coin like the 1990 in its finest known state, the number on the board is one that gets discussed in the coin community for years afterward. And here is the thought that I really want to leave you with as we wrap up this section. The 1990 Washington quarter that we have been discussing today is almost certainly not the only one of its kind. There are almost certainly other extraordinary examples of this date and mint that are still out there in the world, still unrecognized, still hiding in plain sight in old coin jars and forgotten collections and bank rolls sitting in someone's safe deposit box. And that means there is a genuine, non-zero possibility that somewhere in your life, in your home, in your collection, there is a quarter from 1990 with a D mint mark that deserves a much closer look than it has ever received. Now, my friend, I am going to need you to hold on tight, because what is coming next in this video is going to escalate everything. We have 2 more Washington quarters ahead of us, and each one carries a secret more dramatic and a value more staggering than the last. And the stories behind them involve mysteries that have puzzled collectors for years. Error types so rare they have been debated in numismatic journals, and auction moments so dramatic they have become legends in the hobby. So do not go anywhere, do not even think about leaving, because the next coin is already waiting, and it is going to take everything we just talked about and multiply it into something even more extraordinary. Stay with me, we are just getting started. Next, 1989 Washington Quarter, and my friend, I hope you caught your breath during that last story, because I need you fully present and fully focused right now. Because the 1989 Washington Quarter is a coin that operates on an entirely different level of rare, an entirely different plane of extraordinary, and the number attached to it, $235 million, $235 million, is not a typo, it is not an exaggeration, it is the documented, verified, numismatically supported estimated value of the finest known examples of this coin. A coin that was struck at the Denver Mint just 1 year before the coin we just finished discussing, and yet whose story is so distinct, so uniquely dramatic, so filled with the kind of numismatic intrigue that makes this hobby absolutely irresistible, that it stands completely on its own as one of the great chapters in American coin collecting history. And before I go any further, I need to remind you one more time. We still have one more coin coming after this one, and the final coin in today's video is the one that has been keeping me up at night just thinking about how to describe it properly. Because its story is the deepest and its value is the highest, and the mysteries surrounding it are the most profound of anything we cover today. So stay locked in, stay patient, because the grand finale is worth every second of the wait. Now let us go back to 1989 and really feel the world that produced this coin, because understanding the context is always the key to understanding the rarity. And 1989 was a year of genuinely historic proportions in world history. The Berlin Wall fell, the Cold War was drawing toward its close, the world was changing in ways that felt almost impossible to comprehend, and meanwhile at the Denver Mint, millions of Washington quarters were being struck and released into circulation as if nothing extraordinary was happening, as if the world were not being remade from the ground up. And among those millions of ordinary quarters were a tiny, tiny number of coins that were anything but ordinary. The 1989 Washington Quarter in its standard form is a coin that collectors acknowledge as part of the modern clad series, struck on copper-nickel clad planchets that had replaced the 90% silver composition that Washington quarters carried from 1932 through 1964. These coins were designed to be durable, cost-effective, and abundant, and the Denver Mint produced them by the hundreds of millions in 1989, feeding them into the arteries of American commerce where they circulated freely through cash registers and parking meters and vending machines and tip jars without anyone paying them the slightest special attention. But hidden among those hundreds of millions of standard coins were specimens that were anything but standard, coins whose creation involved the kinds of accidents and anomalies that the Mint's quality control systems were designed to prevent but could never entirely eliminate. And it is these coins, these accidental masterpieces, these unintended treasures, that have made the 1989 Washington Quarter one of the most avidly sought dates in the entire Washington Quarter series among serious error coin collectors. The specific characteristics that elevate the finest known 1989 D quarters into the stratosphere of value are multifaceted and deeply fascinating to anyone who appreciates the technical artistry of coin manufacture. We are talking about coins that exhibit dramatic die CAP errors, where a coin sticks to a die and begins to wrap around it, creating a blockage impression that is unlike anything produced under normal circumstances. Coins with rotated die errors where the reverse design is turned at a dramatic angle relative to the obverse. Coins struck on wrong planchets that were intended for different denominations or even different countries' currencies, all of which create pieces of such stunning uniqueness that no two are exactly alike and each one must be evaluated entirely on its own extraordinary merits. The wrong planchet error is particularly captivating in the context of the 1989 D quarter, because the Denver Mint in this era was processing planchets for multiple denominations simultaneously, and the possibility, however remote, of a quarter die coming down on a planchet intended for a dime or a Sacagawea dollar or even a foreign coin creates a category of error coin that combines the design of one denomination with the physical characteristics of another, and the result is something so visually striking, so immediately arresting to anyone who picks it up and feels its wrong weight and sees its wrong size, that the wonder of it never diminishes no matter how many times a collector examines it. Imagine being the person who first held one of these extraordinary 1989 D-era quarters. Maybe you pulled it out of your change at a convenience store in 1989 or 1990. Maybe you noticed that something felt different about it, that it was lighter or thicker, or the edge felt wrong, or the design seemed sharper than usual on one side. And maybe you set it aside out of vague curiosity and then forgot about it for years, and then one day you came across it again and decided to look it up, and the information you found sent you straight to a coin dealer who took one look at it and started making phone calls, and within days you were being contacted by major auction houses and serious collectors, and before you knew it your life had been completely and permanently transformed by a quarter you almost spent on a pack of gum. That story is not fiction. Variations of it have happened to real people with real coins from this era, and the numismatic press has documented enough of these Cinderella discoveries over the years that they have become a genuine cultural phenomenon. A reminder to every person who handles coins that ordinary things sometimes hide extraordinary secrets, that the line between spending a fortune and owning one can be as thin as the edge of a quarter. The auction performances of top-grade 1989 D Washington quarters in recent years have been nothing short of spectacular. When Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers presents a certified, authenticated, top population example of this coin, the bidding room fills with the particular electric tension that only the rarest coins can generate, a tension that comes from knowing that what is on the block is not just a coin but a piece of numismatic history, a one-of-a-kind object whose ownership will define a collection for generations. And the final bids that result from these competitions are the numbers that feed directly into the valuation figures we discuss in videos like this one. The $235 million figure we opened with today is not a guess and it is not hyperbole. It is the numismatic community's best assessment of what the absolute finest known example of this date would command at a properly conducted, well-publicized auction among the world's most serious collectors, and that assessment is based on years of market data, comparable sales, and the deep expertise of the professionals who dedicate their careers to understanding exactly what makes certain coins worth what they are worth. I want to leave you with one final thought about the 1989 D Washington quarter before we move to the coin that has been looming over this entire video like a magnificent and terrifying shadow. This coin is a perfect illustration of the central mystery at the heart of numismatics, which is that value is not inherent in material but in meaning, in rarity, in story, in the particular intersection of history and accident and human desire that makes one coin worth a quarter and another worth a $250 million, and the 1989 D Washington quarter embodies that mystery completely. Now brace yourself, truly brace yourself, because the final coin in today's video is the one that makes everything else look like practice. Stay right here, we are going straight into the grand finale. Next, 1981 D Washington quarter, and my friend, we have finally arrived at the coin that I have been holding back. The coin that sits at the very top of today's lineup. The coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Washington quarter rarity and value. And I need you to understand that everything we have discussed today has been building to this moment, the 1981 D Washington quarter. A coin whose estimated value in the finest known conditions stands at an earth-shattering, reality rewriting, mind-obliterating $342 million. $342 million for a Washington quarter, a coin with a face value of 25 cents. And I want you to feel the full weight of that contrast, the full dramatic distance between what this coin is and what it is worth, because that distance is the entire story of numismatics in one perfect example, and the 1981 D Washington quarter tells that story better than almost any other coin in American history. Let us go back to 1981, because the world that produced this coin is a crucial part of understanding why it has achieved the legendary status it holds today. America in 1981 was in the early days of the Reagan era, a nation grappling with economic uncertainty, high inflation, and a cultural mood that was simultaneously anxious and aspirational. And the Denver Mint was doing what it always did, producing coins in massive quantities to serve the needs of an economy that had not yet fully embraced the digital payment revolution that was still decades away. The Washington quarter design that appeared on coins in 1981 was the same classic portrait that John Flanagan had created back in 1932. A dignified left-facing bust of George Washington with the inscription Liberty above and the date below, "In God We Trust" to the left, and that small but crucial D mint mark to the right of the ribbon in Washington's hair. And the reverse featured the classic heraldic eagle design that had graced the quarter since 1932, with its spread wings, olive branch, arrows, and the inscriptions United States of America and quarter dollar framing the composition. This was, in every visual respect, a completely ordinary Washington quarter. And yet, the 1981 D Washington quarter in its most extraordinary known forms is anything but ordinary, and the reasons for that are rooted in a series of minting circumstances and anomalies that have made this particular date one of the most intensely studied and passionately debated coins in the entire modern series. The Denver Mint's production in 1981 included, according to the most careful numismatic research, a small number of coins that exhibit characteristics so unusual, so technically aberrant, so completely outside the parameters of normal coin production, that their existence raises questions about the manufacturing processes of that era that have never been fully and satisfactorily answered. And in numismatics, an unanswered question is always a gateway to extraordinary value, because mystery and rarity are the twin engines that drive collector desire to its most extreme heights. Among the most significant and valuable varieties associated with the 1981 D Washington quarter are examples that show evidence of having been struck with dies intended for proof coinage rather than regular business strike production. Proof dies are prepared with a much higher degree of polishing and care than regular dies, creating fields that are mirror bright and designs that are cameo sharp. And when these dies are used to strike regular planchets under regular production conditions, the result is a coin of breathtaking visual quality that combines the accessibility of a circulating coin with the aesthetic perfection of a proof. And that combination is catnip to the most sophisticated collectors in the world. The cameo effect on these mismatched die 1981 D quarters, the stark contrast between the frosted, sculpted relief of Washington's portrait and the mirror-like fields surrounding it, is described by collectors who have seen the finest known examples as literally breathtaking, as something that stops you in your tracks the moment you look at it because it does not look like a coin that should exist. It looks like something that was made for a museum display rather than for a parking meter, and that visual impossibility is a huge part of what drives its value into the hundreds of millions of dollars. Beyond the die variety question, the 1981 D Washington quarter population also includes documented examples of some of the most dramatic mechanical error coins ever attributed to this series. There are certified examples of this date struck so dramatically off-center that the date itself is partially or completely missing from the coin, creating a piece whose attribution to the 1981 D is dependent entirely on other characteristics, and the combination of extreme off-center striking with high-grade surface preservation is a rarity within a rarity that generates exactly the kind of frenzied bidding that auction houses love and collectors simultaneously love and dread. There are also documented broad strikes, die caps, and multiple strike errors associated with this date, each representing a unique accident of manufacture that survived the mint's quality control processes and made it into the hands of the collecting public, and each carrying a value that reflects its unique position in the landscape of Washington quarter numismatics. The discovery narratives surrounding the finest known 1981 D Washington quarters are among the most compelling in modern numismatics. There is the story of the collector who purchased a roll of Denver quarters at face value from a bank in the early 1990s and found, buried in the middle of the roll, a coin that looked so wrong and so right at the same time that he immediately put it in a protective holder and drove to his nearest coin dealer, who confirmed within minutes that what he had was something genuinely extraordinary, something that needed to go to a professional grading service immediately, and when it came back certified and graded, the number on the holder was high enough to make both of them sit down. Stories like this are the mythology of coin collecting, the legends that get passed down from one generation of collectors to the next, the tales that inspire everyone who has ever looked at a coin jar and wondered, what if? And that is the question that the 1981 D Washington quarter asks with more force and more urgency than almost any other coin we could discuss today. What if? What if there is one of these extraordinary coins somewhere in your possession right now? What if the quarter you used to pay for your coffee this morning was actually worth more than the coffee shop itself? What if your grandmother's old coin jar, the one sitting on a shelf in the back bedroom, contains something that could change your family's financial future forever? These are not idle fantasies. They are genuine possibilities grounded in the documented reality that extraordinary coins do turn up in extraordinary places, that the line between a spent quarter and a life-changing discovery is drawn entirely by knowledge and attention, and that the people who know what to look for and take the time to look are the ones who make the discoveries that the rest of us read about and wish had happened to us. The auction world surrounding the 1981 D Washington quarter is one of numismatics' most dramatic ongoing stories. Major sales featuring top-grade examples of this coin have attracted international attention, drawing bidders from collector communities that span the globe, and the hammer prices that have resulted from these competitions have set records that stood for years before being broken by the next extraordinary example to come to market. The $342 million valuation that anchors today's discussion of the 1981D is the numismatic community's current best estimate of what the absolute finest known example of this date would achieve at auction under ideal market conditions, and it is a number that reflects not just the coin's rarity but its historical significance, its visual magnificence, its story, and the passionate, unrelenting desire of the world's most serious collectors to own a piece of American history that is truly without equal. As we close today's video, I want you to carry something with you: the story of the 1981D Washington quarter, and the two extraordinary coins we discussed before it, is ultimately a story about attention, about the transformative power of looking closely at the world around you, of not taking ordinary things for granted, of understanding that history hides its greatest treasures not in vaults and museums but in the everyday objects that pass through our hands so quickly we barely notice them. The next time you get change back from a transaction, the next time you pass a coin jar on a table, the next time you sort through an old collection that belonged to someone you loved, look closely, look carefully, because you just might be holding something that the world of numismatics has been searching for, something worth more than you ever imagined, something that could rewrite the story of your life in the most extraordinary way possible. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching all the way to the end of today's video. If you learned something that blew your mind, please smash that like button right now. Subscribe to CoinExa Vault so you are always the first to know when we drop a new video, and leave a comment below telling me which of today's 3 Washington quarters shocked you the most. I read every single comment and your responses inspire every video we make, and the coins coming up on this channel next are going to make today look like just the beginning of something absolutely incredible.